Wow, that was abrupt. It's like, hi everyone, how are you? I hope everyone's enjoying the Mart so far and NeoCon. It's been a pretty exciting show. I hope everyone's seeing some really incredible stuff. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Khoi Vo. I am the president and CEO of ASID. And we are very excited about hosting this panel discussion on a topic I think is a very timely one that I think a lot of you who are in the practice, in the profession can really relate to. At ASID, our research explores the forces that are shaping the design of the future of design, from economic conditions to technological innovations to changing client expectations, and then also included in that are emerging business models. Today, we're at that inflection point. Designers are navigating an environment defined by economic uncertainties, rapid technological changes, increasing sophisticated clients, and projects that involve more stakeholders than ever before. In conversations the other day, I was talking about how I remember being at the table and there'd be maybe 10 stakeholders, and now there's like average of 20, 30 stakeholders involved in decision-making processes, so it's getting more and more complex. What was once relatively a linear process now requires coordinations across designers, owners, manufacturers, contractors, consultants, technology platforms, and procurement teams, often simultaneously, all these things happening at once. One of the strongest themes emerging from our research is that successful projects increasingly depend on integration. As budgets tighten, stakeholder groups expand, and project delivery models evolve, coordination has become a strategic advantage rather than an administrative function. Today, we'll explore these forces and how they're reshaping the design process, what they mean for practitioners and clients, and why project management, collaboration, and accountability are becoming central factors in the success of a project. I'm really excited to introduce you to our panel today. They are not only brilliant at what they do, they are close friends of mine for many years. The first one is Olivia. Olivia is a senior workplace strategist at dancker. Olivia's work works at the intersection between workplace strategy, organizational behavior, and evolving workforce expectations, helping organizations rethink how environments support collaboration, flexibility, culture, and employee experience. Dwayne, at the end there, is with Built Environment Consultant and also Impeccable 7. Dwayne brings expertise in operational coordination, implementation strategies, and project executions across complex built environment initiatives with the focus on integration and delivery. And in the middle is Kate Pixler. Kate is an interior designer at HOK. Kate's work focuses on large-scale commercial interior projects, workplace strategy, sustainability, and human-centered environments that support long-term adaptability and performance. So we're glad you guys are here. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to dive in and start us off with the first thing we want to discuss is this idea of the new reality of project delivery. ASID's research points to several forces transforming how projects are delivered. Economic uncertainties and budget pressures, accelerating technology adoption, expanding stakeholder groups, increasing demands for measurable outcomes, more complex procurement and supply chain issues. Design excellence has to remain essential, but increasingly success depends on how efficient or effective teams coordinate across all of these disciplines and how they manage these complexities through the project's life cycle. So the first question I'm gonna ask all three of you guys is, what has changed when you compare projects today to those about 5 or 10 years ago? What do you think has dramatically changed the most?
I think COVID has really reshaped our industry in so many ways. Mm-hmm. Even though at this point we're now 6 years out from 2020, which feels insane to say, there are still so many of our clients that are thinking about back to work for the first time, employing new strategies around enticing their employees back to the office, what they are holding as requirements for back to the office, whether that's 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, and relying on us as partners to help them understand what the best way to do that is. They're often very interested in what their peers are doing. Mm-hmm. but it's really not a one-size-fits-all world anymore.
Right.
There's so much complexity that is based on the nature of their work, their teams, and it really helps to understand our customers' personalities, where they're coming from, and what might be important to them.
Olivia, I'll follow up with that is, with your clients, what are the percentage of those that are going back full-time, part-time, hybrid? Do you have a rough?
All over the place.
Yeah.
We really do have some that are back 5 days a week, which has been really interesting and exciting to see. Full workplaces with energy and collaboration happening. And then some companies that are really sensitive to how COVID shaped people's personal lives in a different way, and are struggling with getting people back to work more than 2 days a week. We have customers that have outfitted space for one strategy and now are moving towards another in their day 2 kind of applications. So we really try to help them along and coach them through that process as best as possible.
That's great. That's great. Kate, what about you?
Yeah, I think we are seeing more that people are needing their spaces to do more for them.
Okay.
And sometimes it's not starting a new lease, it might be retrofitting what they have already. And how do we adapt? How do we work with what they have existing? Because also they're not making the investments that they may have 10 years ago into their built environment. So essentially, how can we do more with less resources?
And I heard a pretty interesting statistics about, I think within the next 2 years, about 80% of the leases are going to be up for renewal or terminated and so forth. So I mean, it's a really critical time right now, right? Yeah. Dwayne, what about you? What are you seeing?
It's extremely interesting. If you were in the industry 5-10 years ago, you remember it being one way. And if you're just coming into the industry, you're coming in at a critical point. Hence the inflection point. What I'm seeing is we're in a position where we get to kind of define where it goes, because I think it's so nebulous right now, the way people are not only utilizing space, but also how we're doing business. I think we're all trying to pivot a lot from the COVID era, and everybody's trying to figure out, well, what was that?
Right.
And still trying to say, okay, here we are, this is where we should be trying to move things, and what is normal? Like, how are we doing this? What is normal business for us now? So I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to be creative, still taking some of those key pieces as the way we used to deliver projects and applying it, because there are some things simply that just won't change, at least not for the foreseeable future. But then there's that opportunity to say, okay, this didn't really work.
Right.
So let's try this too, and introduce it to a client and see if they'll receive that and start to be a little creative. I think we are at a real point where we can kind of drive things in the direction we would like to see for us to be able to deliver projects differently.
That's great. That's great. I'm going to move us into another point. ASID's economic outlook shows that while opportunities remain across many sectors, firms continue to face cost volatility, right? Labor constraints and pressures to deliver measurable value. Clients are scrutinizing investments more closely than ever before. I'm sure you guys are experiencing that very much. Design teams are increasingly being asked not only what they're proposing, but why. So a lot more justification and things. So this one, Kate, let's start with you. How has increased client scrutiny influenced the design process? And follow up that is, what does accountability look like from a designer's perspective?
Yeah, so I think it's sort of twofold. On a broader scale, we are expected to just be experts. And I think, especially at HOK, we've done a lot of research on sustainability and neurodiversity and workplace strategy. And I would say more so than before, clients are actually interested in what the data is saying, and they want us to prove out why what we're suggesting for them is better than what they were doing before.
Right.
And then a little more specifically, because we're tight on budgets and everything has to be so closely worked, is we have sometimes, on the project I'm working on now, we have a really tight program that we need to follow. And it's all tied back to their investment and how things are going to be worked out. And so when we're presenting to the client, we need to really be on that program and know exactly what we're doing. And so if they ask, well, is that the appropriate material? Is that what we asked for in that space? We need to be able to say yes and know that we're right.
Right.
Yeah.
And if anything, it seems like that reduction in, let's say, billable hours, that you can commit to something, is starting to eat away at material exploration, even research, right? And so you're being asked to do more with less time.
Yes,
Which
definitely.
is incredibly challenging, I imagine.
Yeah, so we really have to lean on our partner resources to be the experts in their field and inform us on the specific thing that we need for our projects, which is why those relationships are so important.
Yeah, for sure. Dwayne, you were shaking your head.
It's funny to me because in this particular, where I'm primarily functioning right now, I manage a lot of projects for the state of Georgia. And in doing that, I'm the bad guy. That's fussing and saying, hey,
Professional
I
bad
need
guy.
you to be
Yes,
the expert in
always.
these things, 'cause these contracts are concrete.
Yeah.
So I need you to be the expert, because when we go forward with this, if my CM, my contractor says, hey, well, we can't build this that way, I gotta unfortunately turn to my designer friend and say, y'all didn't figure that out already?
Right.
So, but it's very interesting. She's spot on with saying there is an expectation to be a expert at virtually everything.
Yeah.
But everybody's crunching times and crunching budgets, and we have to be super nimble, very resourceful, and have all of the right relationships.
Yeah. How many here are designers? Can you guys raise your hand? So yeah, a good majority. We were just having this discussion about, the other day, we had a discussion about designers versus manufacturing relationships, right? Kate was part of this conversation about kind of where that role is, right? How do you share resources, right? Because so much of that time is being taken out of the studio. Are there other resources that can be dedicated to it, such as with the manufacturing, right? Yeah, that's great. Technology continues to reshape virtually every aspect of project delivery. AI, data analytics, digital collaboration tools, visualization technology, and integrated project platforms are creating new opportunities, but also new challenges, promises of greater efficiency, and the reality of that is sometimes very complex and sometimes contradictory to each other. So Olivia, organizations have access to more workplace data than ever before. How is this technology changing the way workplace strategies are being developed and delivered?
So I think in general, technology is something that most of our customers know to ask about in initial conversations regarding even things like layout, what they would need from a product perspective, but they don't always know exactly what to ask for. And again, it's not a one-size-fits-all type of solution. Customers have different budgets. They might have different needs based on how much of their staff is hybrid, how many offices they need to communicate back and forth with. They might not even need the same thing in every room. So it is something that we try to talk about pretty early on. Dancker, my company, is an interiors integrator, so we present ourselves to the market with an option to engage us even for things like design and technology, engineering and procurement. So we offer a way to do that all in-house and have that really coordinate with the other facets of the space that we're providing for, which I think is really helpful. But we have seen some customers really use technology as a starting point and design from technology out. We worked on a project with a private wealth management firm where the technology was so important. They had traders, they had very specific screens and phones and things like that that are highly specialized. And we built the workstations and the offices technology out. So it was all about supporting that technology on the surface, making sure that like eye level made sense, that people were only so far from a screen. And it was a really interesting way to approach a project totally differently. I think, again, it's just really about knowing your customer and what their goals are, and technology can be a great way to understand them a little bit better and make their spaces function.
Yeah, and it seems like there's also, I think you and I were walking the floor the other day and seeing, there seems to be also the integration where companies are acquiring or partnering up, right?
Yes.
So you have the major companies, like a Steelcase, maybe partnering up with a technology company or acquiring a technology, right? So that integration is seamless, right?
Absolutely.
I don't know if you guys are experiencing that as far as work, specifying stuff, and how does that work?
I think also a lot of times too, when I work on these really large scale projects, when we're designing it, to the time it gets built and commissioned and they're moving in is such a long timeline. So oftentimes we do make selections, but then we also just need to make sure that the infrastructure is designed in a way that, knowing that probably this monitor that we chose this year, when it's going to be installed 3 years from now, it's probably not the same thing. So how can we future-proof as best as possible to make sure that whatever technology is available in 3 years, it's still going to be able to work with the built environment?
Yeah, that's incredible. Dwayne, are you seeing any of that from your clients as well?
Yeah, it's tough to navigate.
Yeah.
Because again, in this particular, like where I'm operating most, I'm, again, the bad guy. So I get an owner that says, hey, this speaker was spec'd 2.5 years ago. There's something new.
Right.
And then the moment it says there's an increase, I'm just like, well. And it's difficult because you really want the space to perform exactly how the client wants them to perform.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a fiduciary charge that we all are responsible for, and making sure that, in the onset of the project, we kind of thought about what that evolution could potentially look like, and potentially negotiate and or navigate the prospect of what that percentage increase might look like. Yeah. Or you just spec something higher and let them back you down, and hopefully they hold on to that number, so now you got that extra cushion.
Yeah. And this leads to a question for you too, Dwayne, about I think where you have spent your career, the space you've spent your career, is really between the idea of owner, designer, consultant, right? Contractors and manufacturers. So obviously, I think we all agree that one of the biggest key to success is that clear communication, right? That channel. So can you talk about that and what you've experienced on that?
One of the things I like to do personally is make sure that we're all speaking the same language early. We all, in theory, are talking the same things, but trust me, contractors are speaking a different language than the owners are, than the designers. It is absolute foreign to each other in certain concepts. So make sure you're identifying, okay, like you asked, what does accountability look like? What does success actually look like? How do we really want this to perform? And what are we willing to give for those high priority components? It's that defining those early so that everybody can be keyed in on those types of things has been huge. For instance, I managed a project at the Hyundai. It's a long acronym they have. It's Hyundai
Mega Plant.
Meta Plant. Anyway, the Hyundai's headquarters in Savannah, where they're manufacturing just outside Savannah. They had a lot of proprietary technology that we had to learn those things early. So it took a whole conversation. Hey, everybody, let's sit down at the table now. Let them tell us how this stuff functions, what infrastructure they need, and how we are able to actually deliver. Just making sure that we were on the same page, having the same conversations, and try to minimize the pivots that's necessary, because we still had to pivot a lot, but it was still try to minimize those things.
Yeah. And Olivia, I think traditionally your role would have came in kind of at the end of that process, right? Are you seeing yourself getting into the room earlier?
We certainly try.
Yeah.
And I think we have greater success when we're part of the conversation sooner.
Right.
I think it helps kind of build those relationships we were touching on earlier. All aspects of a team on a project really need to be able to trust each other, relate to each other, feel comfortable that I can share, hey, I think we're moving in a different direction here than we should be, or be able to make a suggestion. And I also think it gives us more time to get to know the end user. I think the interesting part of the technology conversation we didn't touch on just yet is the actual applications in use. For them to be successful in the space, they need to be intuitive, they need to be well thought out, they need to work. And we often hear that feedback if it's successful or if it's not. And so not only does it have to be on budget, available, cutting edge, future-proof, but it has to actually work in practice too.
I'm going to ask you guys. I've been trying to get these guys to give real examples, but they're all under NDAs. so I'm trying to keep them out of jail and not get sued. But can you guys, are there projects where things might have gone wrong, or give us some examples of where you start seeing signals where something might have gone wrong, and how do you handle that, right?
I'll use,
call you lawyer.
I'll use, thankfully, the building's built, so at this rate, we just talk. I'll use the Hyundai plant, not the plant itself, but the training facility.
Okay.
There was one thing that I noticed that it's kind of outside even some of the points that we're raising right now that helps the project be successful, is the accountability piece. It's not the accountability piece of I see you, you're wrong. It's the accountability piece to say, hey, we messed that one up, or we departed from this. That helps a lot in the exchange of the relationships. For instance, in that building, there was a spec from the architect that said, and the interior designers that said, hey, all in-wall all receptacles are supposed to be in-wall, above ceiling, and only above ceiling can they be outside of the wall. Well, there was a space that was all the way to the roof deck. How do you define in-wall? So it was a conversation where the contractor and the designer just kind of got into this knockdown drag out about, hey, there's no ceiling in this space, so we can put it here because the ceiling would be here. And the architect and the interior designer saying, well, if there's no ceiling, the underside of the roof deck is the ceiling, therefore this goes in the wall. So there had to be some mediation in real time to say, hey, all right, we messed this one up. Maybe we can negotiate in certain spaces. We leave this, other spaces we don't. So those types of things, that accountability piece, and there goes your real example.
There you go.
So that's important. This is the accountability, switching the lens from somebody, I'm supposed to be accountable to make sure that I'm holding you accountable, also hold yourself accountable.
Yeah, and I think for us, on these really big, complex projects, there's so many people doing their part of the project, and part of the accountability is making sure that we're all talking to each other. On a recent project, there were some things, technology, that we thought was under someone else's scope. They thought it was under our scope. It got missed. Now the building is being built, and we need to find places to put these things that need power and data and electrical. And we're built up to level 6. And now it's like, well, where can we put it where we're going to take down the least amount of wall to get it put in there?
So how did that end?
It's still going.
It's
still going.
To get the answer to that. That's crazy. I want to talk about this idea of improving industry collaboration, right? What helps manufacturers become true partners in the design process, and where do those opportunities still exist for improvement? I think this is building off a lot of what we were talking about yesterday. I'll open it up to you two first, and Dwayne, jump in, because you guys are kind of in the thick of this, right?
Yeah. I think my relationships with our manufacturers are some of the most important relationships I have. By staying close to them, I'm able to understand what's coming next. I'm able to creatively problem solve. I work in client development, and so we're often asked to create something that doesn't exist or solve for a solution that is brand new. And we really rely on our manufacturer partners, not just our reps, but the engineering teams behind them to come up with those solutions, to vet solutions, and really come to customers with a educated and complete way to solve for their issues or their requests. And I really try to prioritize those relationships because it helps me communicate to our customers what I think is their best solution. It helps me broaden my horizons of what's available. And they often know what's coming to market sooner than we do. I mean, that's why we're all here at NeoCon, right, is to see what's coming next. So to be able to do that throughout the year between NeoCons is really important.
Yeah, and I think building on that, those relationships are also important because, like you mentioned before, we are on such a time crunch on projects, and our billable hours have to be so tight. So if I have a good relationship with a manufacturer, I know that I can reach out to them with a vague, and oftentimes with these confidential clients, it's really vague, and say, I need this sort of thing. And I then don't have to do the legwork of spending multiple hours looking for the perfect thing for whatever the application is. They may be able to direct me to something right away. And so that those relationships are so valuable. And then also, once you're in the project, we're right now working with a manufacturer to develop a certain kind of table that we need for this client, and it's got some very specific requirements. Nothing really existed on the market now, and it would have been great to bring them in a little sooner than we did, I think. This is truly the last piece of furniture that I'm trying to get signed off on, and everything else is selected, and then this one table that doesn't actually exist yet is holding us up. So the sooner that you can bring in a manufacturer on a project, they can just help streamline everything.
That's great. That's great. Designing for outcomes. Clients increasingly expect projects to deliver measurable results, right? We talked about data and what that all means. Whether the goal is improving performance, supporting well-being, increasing utilization, enhancing experience, or strengthening organizational culture, design is being evaluated throughout those outcomes. So, Kate, how is this shift towards measurable outcome changing the role of the designer?
Yeah, I think it means that we need to be an expert in more than just design. We need to understand how the space is going to be used, not just the type of people that are in this space, but how this facility, there are people that live there and also people that work there. And so you're not designing for just one population. You have to consider how they interact and design for that. And that is always a challenge, but we need to become experts in that too. You can't just design a good space. You need to know, is it supporting the safety, well-being, and all those things? Is the environment going to hold up?
Right. And you're leaning towards your partners to help with those data. That research.
Yeah. Definitely. And leaning on the client a little bit too. No one's more of an expert in how they're going to use their space than they are. So it's always nice to be able to talk to them up front and be able to say, okay, how are you using this? Who's in the space?
Yeah.
What are your end goals besides just having it built? Yeah. What else is important to you?
Yeah. And Dwayne, what about clients? What are they looking at?
Everything.
Yeah.
No, I think kind of to that point, like, yes, the output of how's it performing? How long is this going to last? Does this really meet all of my needs right now? And again, at the end of the day, are we going to get this when we want it? Because yes, we have defined this project with a very small window to deliver. But also, is it going to be the number that we need it to be within? And I think kind of to Kate's point, the relationship piece is key, and being able to get that information, because they are the subject matter experts of their spaces and how they're using it. And I think the real piece is being able to ask them the questions, or figuring out the right questions to ask to get the information that you need, or just being present, because a lot of times they can't necessarily articulate what it is.
Yeah.
So figuring out the opportunities to sit beside them and just watch.
Yeah.
And translate.
And watch and translate.
Pull it out of them.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to get it wrong first.
Yeah.
And then they say no, and then you realize that you interpreted it wrong.
Right. Well, I think, those are some of the things I wanted to cover today. I wanted to conclude our part of this, and then we'll open it up to questions. What are kind of your parting thoughts about what are the key things that you're finding in your experience that really help this idea of multidisciplinary, multi-stakeholder collaboration that seems to work the best, or you can say the opposite. When do things go wrong to avoid those things, right?
I think something that has changed a lot is at least from where I sit, the decision makers on projects are very different than they used to be. We used to work with maybe a facilities lead who had been maybe with their company a long time, knew the ins and outs, knew exactly what they needed. Now it's a much more diverse decision by committee more often than not.
Yeah.
And so they might know their brand really well, or they might know exactly how much they have to spend, but they may struggle to articulate exactly what they need or fold those ideas together to come to a decision. And sometimes it creates decision paralysis. Nobody wants to be the one that someone can point back at and say, that was Khoi's idea, not mine.
It's not a good one, yeah.
Exactly. So it is definitely something I find we're navigating more often now. But I think something that is important, at least in my experience, is to approach these projects with like a anthropology lens, kind of. Like, it helps to be enthusiastic and want to get to know your client and know what makes them tick, what their drivers are. And then you can kind of aggregate that information and come back to them with what you think the best solution is. And it's coming from a place of knowing them rather than trying to impose upon them some concept that may not fit.
Well, that's all back to the relationship, right?
Exactly.
What kind of relationship you have with them in the first place. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think knowing who you need, like you said, now it's a committee and there's someone who's paying attention to the technical aspect. Maybe this person's a little bit more concerned with aesthetics. And so when we go to present ideas to the client, knowing who do we need in the room, if this is a decision that we need made at this meeting, who on the client side do we need to make sure is there so that that decision does get made and we don't just say, okay, we'll get back to you because we know the design has to keep moving. So we never have time to wait for them to get back to us.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I can't emphasize the relationship component enough. But there's there's also another piece of not overcomplicating things. These projects are always going to be super complex anyway. Because there are always a ton, like now, I don't know if you guys heard the saying, there's too many cooks in the kitchen. There's always too many cooks in the kitchen. So because of that, you have to really be mindful and discern, okay, what ingredient from that cook do I need to put in the pot? And from there, that kind of allows you to start putting together that Michelin 5-star dish. And start making it work. It is a very challenging thing, but at the same time, there are some simple principles, in my personal opinion, that you just have to always go back to. Just remembering that you're just working with human beings for a certain output. So continuing down that path, making sure that you have that relationship and create those avenues for people to be mad at a moment and vent, but still realize, okay, we're in this together, and keep down that line. Those are some of the key things that I've seen in recent times, because I've had some pretty challenging projects in recent times. It's like, okay, we just have to be okay with not overcomplicating in a complicated situation, and also not personalizing. Don't internalize and take this stuff personal, because we're designers. We love what we do. We love what we've produced, but we also know through going through design school, we will absolutely get our designs bashed. And we got to be okay with that. And you got to be willing to part ways with certain pieces of your design, but still be able to know that you've left your fingerprint.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'll conclude with this, right? Which is, I think we've touched on several really important topics, and hopefully that'll spur for some good questions here. That economic uncertainty is increasing pressures on project performance. Technology is transforming both the design and the delivery systems. Projects require broader collaboration than ever before. Communication and coordination are becoming strategic capabilities. And successful outcomes depends on the integration across stakeholders, disciplines, and processes, right? I think those are kind of the main things that seems to be like the key ingredients, like you said, in the kitchen that you need for that great meal.
Oh, yeah.
Very good, very good. Well, thank you, guys. We're going to open this up for some questions, and I think you guys have already started asking questions. I love it. So the first one to you guys, and you guys, whoever wants to take it first, what are the big interior design trends you are seeing emerging in 2026? That's a good one. No pressure. Better be good.
I really think a lot of it, like broad picture, is making sure that spaces are working for clients. And with that, we've all proven we can work from home, and some people want to continue to work from home, and that's not always the goal of our clients. And so how do we make the space work best for our employees? How do we make it feel like home? Not necessarily like there's a couch in the corner, but people work in different ways. And so that's what a lot of our research for HOK has been, is how do we support all the different ways that people work? And so really paying attention to that data and actually implementing it into our design and proving to the clients that there's research here, this is work, you want to support your employees, this is the way to do it. And
Kate, I'll follow up. Are you seeing also the multiple generation of users in your spaces
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, and that's a challenge too, and it goes back to the way people work. Someone who has been in the industry, of whatever industry they're in, for 30 years is certainly working different than someone who's been in the industry for 5 years.
Yeah.
They learned differently, they work differently, different
And they're sitting in the
technology.
same room.
And they're sitting next to each other.
Next
Yeah.
to each other. Yeah, it's incredible. Designers have a pretty tough gig.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. The next question is, how can manufacturers gain your brand loyalty as more and more similar brands, companies come into the scene for interior design? I wonder who asked that question.
I would say number one is responsiveness.
Responsiveness,
Yes,
okay.
if I can count on you to answer me. We all work weird hours, long hours.
Yeah.
If I can text you first thing in the morning and hear from you that day, or send an email out and, to your point
Yeah.
earlier, get some direction on what might make sense. I think I'm really lucky to work with some incredible manufacturers and some incredible reps that are not only responsive, but true experts in their offering.
Yeah.
And they're thinking ahead, they're thinking, like, I can collaborate with them and strategize with them, which just helps us grow our relationship and our trust, but also make sure that that information gets communicated to the customer through me.
Yeah. Kate, do you?
Yeah, and I would say for manufacturers, knowing your product as well as possible, because sometimes I know I have a really specific requirement for something, and it's also okay to say, I don't know, but I know who to talk to get you that information to make sure that the product that you're looking for is going to support your need.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than bringing something to a client and then they ask me questions
Yeah.
and I don't have the right answer.
And I keep hearing, designers saying, those who have my back, right?
Yeah.
When something's going wrong, well, back during the design and design development stage, where I can go to them late at night, over the weekend, whenever, and they're responsive. And then when the project's being implemented or installed and stuff, that they have my back when something's going wrong, right?
Yeah.
It's never about like, the product's the best, or, they are, right?
Yeah.
But I think everyone is leveling up there already. It's really that extra mile of like that customer service or that relationship seems to be really important.
Absolutely.
Right, yeah. This question, I was wondering when we were going to get a ChatGPT question. When a client sends a ChatGPT image of what they want, how do you proceed? You put it through Gemini and then you have it create a drawing for
I have
you.
a real, right now, scenario where I'm dealing with this. The first thing you do is cuss.
Get it out of your system.
Hey, designers, why do I need to be informed by that? But at the same time, my personal thought is you change your mind and say, okay, well, my information, my designs is actually informing this, because we are, ChatGPTs and all of that, they're sourcing the infinite information that we put out, we produce. So if we want to make sure that stuff, because people are going to do it regardless, and we want to make sure that the ChatGPT or AI-generated imagery is brought back to us, and it makes sense. We have to make sure the things that we put out as a point of reference is strong. But the part that we always get to separate ourselves from in this instance of a ChatGPT is we're human beings, and we actually get to establish a real relationship. That's just output.
Yeah. Are you guys experiencing any of that?
I haven't too much. I know there's certainly people that are, but I think it's also goes back to the relationships and educating clients. A lot of times a ChatGPT image can't actually be built.
Yeah.
Like, it's not thought through. So approaching your client in a way that says, like, I see you, I understand what you're wanting, and not just automatically shooting it down, which I think we would all love to, but educating them and say, well, this won't work because they have carpet in the bathroom. We're not putting carpet in your bathroom, something like that. So, but coming at it from an education standpoint, we're all humans, being kind, and explaining why the human touch is.
We went through this with Pinterest, didn't we? Like,
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
people sending us Pinterest
Still,
images,
actually,
and saying like, I
We're in
want
it.
this, and you're like, well, it's already been done. Why are we doing this again?
But it's a good extraction point, right? Like, you can ask, what do you like about this? What do you think is really something you'd like to translate from this image to your project? It's just more information to be able to have those conversations. And obviously, we would have to your point, talk about what could work and what couldn't work. But I'm happy when a customer sends me an image, because sometimes they can't
verbalize it or put it in an email to you. Yeah. How have tariffs and supply shock impacted the sourcing decisions and affecting budgets?
Hugely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that people necessarily connect the geopolitical state of the world with design always, but it is something that impacts our industries, and it can be the difference between sourcing something from overseas or sourcing something domestically. Customers often know to ask, where is this made?
Yeah.
But they don't always know to connect it all the way through to price point, additional fees, things that they might be responsible for. And when we're looking at budgets, this is something we really try to call out to them. And tariffs have been so up and down. Freight is something that is really skyrocketing right now. And so it's an important part of our responsibility to communicate the impacts to our customers.
Yeah.
Dwayne, are you having that conversation with your clients as far as like, hey guys, heads up, be prepared?
We do. We have a lot of those conversations. It's ours is definitely cost, but it's really heavily on the schedule side of things.
Okay.
We're trying to make sure that our designers have the relationship with the manufacturers to indicate, hey, what is the true lead time or what is the true impact? And then it's hard to say because, again, the commodities are being impacted by a tweet or the statement on the news, so it can swing at any given moment. So really trying to figure out, okay, as best we can, let's pinpoint the pieces that we know could potentially be impacted and try to get out ahead of that as far as we possibly can and already have a plan B and C teed up.
We'll take a couple more. I think we have a little bit of time. From a different perspective, what would you like to see more from your clients and customers during a project? What would you like to see them do different?
Give us answers. Not be wishy-washy when
Be more decisive.
Yeah, be more decisive and communicate those decisions because
Be more communicative.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard when we feel like they're holding back. With some clients that definitely don't hold back, but when they do, it's like we know that we're not quite hitting the mark with you, but you're not able or unwilling to let us know exactly what we can do better.
Hey, I'm going to put that back on you. Is it because designers are not asking the right questions, or is there ever that?
Possibly. I think part of it too is the design by committee, and so no one wants to give an opinion because they need to check with these 3 other people. They want to go into a room and have a conversation and then come back to us, and we always want to know right away. We want immediate feedback.
Yeah. Okay, good. And then we'll end with this one. When compromising a design decision, how do you feel about the frustration of your personal beliefs being put down? Wow. Who asked that question?
I always say you can't hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about in design school, that gets stripped away from us. Nothing's too precious. So you can't hurt my feelings if you don't like my first suggestion, my second suggestion. I'm going to keep suggesting things till we figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you probably go home and are annoyed and tell complain to your loved one. But at the end of the day, it's an interesting challenge. I really fell in love with this idea, but now I have to come up with something new.
And I had a conversation with your colleague, Dina, and she's a design leader as well, and she would say after a really tough meeting, it's now her job to distill that, but take the positive out, and express that to the team, right? It's not just about let's just go home and get drunk. Let's talk about it's her responsibility saying, okay, I got to keep my team operating, and where do we go from there?
Yeah.
But you do still need that friend that you can go and gripe to.
Yes.
The commiserating is important.
Great. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for participating, and please give a round of applause to our friends.